Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to build a new map for understanding and overcoming addiction. We're going to do it by connecting the dots between neuroscience, psychology, and even spirituality.
So let's kick things off with this really powerful idea from the psychologist Carl Jung. He's basically saying that the roots of addiction go way deeper than just substances. They can reach into the things we believe in, the very things that drive us.
Because let's be real, addiction isn't always a bottle or a pill, right? Sometimes it's that compulsive loop we get stuck in, endlessly scrolling, waiting for that text, anything to numb a feeling we can't quite put our finger on. We're surrounded by all this stimulation, but we feel totally disconnected.
And that brings us to a really crucial idea. What if we've been looking at this all wrong? What if the addiction itself isn't the real problem, but just a symptom of something much deeper, like a kind of spiritual thirst? Now, to really get a handle on the loop that traps us, we have to talk about a major player inside our brains, dopamine. And it's not just the molecule of pleasure. Think of it as the molecule of more. It's the neurochemical that drives us to get up and seek things out.
So, how does this whole thing actually work? Well, to understand the mechanism, we need to look at our brain's #1 priority. Let's dive into the neuroscience, which, believe it or not, reveals a really simple but powerful system at play.
Okay, so neuroscientist Dr. Anna Lembke explains this perfectly. She says our brain processes pleasure and pain in the exact same place, and it works just like a seesaw that the brain is desperately trying to keep level. This constant drive for balance is called homeostasis.
And here's how that cycle works. When you do something that gives you a big dopamine hit, the seesaw tips way over to the pleasure side. But your brain, wanting balance, immediately compensates by pushing down on the pain side, and it overcorrects. That overshoot is the come down. It's that awful craving for another hit, not even to feel good anymore, but just to get back to feeling normal.
Now, if we keep chasing that high over and over, something really serious happens. The seesaw basically gets stuck on the pain side. We end up in what's called a dopamine deficit state. Suddenly, a beautiful sunset does nothing for you, conversations feel flat, and you end up needing your drug of choice, not to feel good, but just to stop feeling so incredibly bad.
So, this all leads to the really big question, right? Why? Why do we get on this crazy seesaw and start this whole destructive loop in the first place? What on earth are we running from?
And the answer, it seems, is that we're trying to regulate some kind of underlying negative feeling. You know, a sense of emptiness or anxiety, or just not feeling good enough. And it often stems from being deeply disconnected from who we really are.
Okay, so understanding the loop is one thing, but how do we actually climb out of it? The answer isn't just about willpower. We need a strategy. We need a ladder with 3 layers, and the very first rung is all about resetting the body.
The first step has to be physiological. We've got to give that pleasure-pain seesaw in our brain a real chance to rebalance itself. And this requires a full biological reset, something people often call a dopamine fast.
Dr. Lembke's clinical work shows that it takes about 30 days of total abstinence from your main high dopamine behavior for your brain's reward pathways to reset. And listen, the first 2 weeks are going to be tough. It says it right there. You will feel worse before you feel better. But then, around week 4, your brain can actually start finding joy in simple things again.
So, once the body's chemistry starts to heal and that seesaw begins to level out, then we can start the critical work of reprogramming the mind. This is where we break those automatic, unconscious habits.
Dr. Joe Dispenza calls this the art of self-regulation. It's about becoming aware of your own automatic programming. You use mental rehearsal to literally decide ahead of time how you're going to respond to triggers. And this is the coolest part. You learn to generate positive emotions like gratitude from within, breaking your dependency on outside things to feel good.
And that brings us to the final, and you could argue the most important layer of the ladder. This is where we finally address that spiritual thirst we talked about at the beginning. This is all about reconnecting with the parts of ourselves we left behind.
Carl Jung had a name for this, shadow work. Now, it sounds intense, I know, but it's really about having the courage to finally turn towards the parts of you that are hurting instead of running from them. It's about looking at the anger, the fear, the shame you've locked away, and integrating it, not suppressing it. A simple but incredibly profound way to start this work is with a journal. Just ask yourself this one question
and then write. Don't judge it, don't edit it, just let that hidden part of you speak. You might be absolutely amazed at what your deeper self has been trying to tell you all this time. So when you start to combine these three layers, the body, the mind, and the soul, the whole journey transforms. The goal shifts from just simple recovery to something much, much deeper. It becomes a reclamation.
I mean, look at this. It's a fundamental shift in how you live your life. You go from being trapped in this reactive loop of chasing pleasure and escaping pain to proactively climbing a ladder towards a life that's filled with meaning, purpose, and a real sense of wholeness.
Jung actually called this process individuation, and this is such a key insight. The goal isn't to just erase the past and go back to who you were before. Let's be honest, that person was already vulnerable. The real goal is to integrate all the parts of yourself, even the shadow, to become more complete.
So the final thought here is this. This whole process isn't about fixing some flaw in you. It's about finally listening to the part of you that's been screaming for your attention. So what if that addiction, the thing you thought was the problem, was actually the very doorway to discovering who you were truly meant to be all along?